My career has been about preparation. I mean, there's certain things I imagined and I desired, and I definitely think I helped to facilitate it. Part of it's luck, and part of luck is being prepared so that when luck does come or opportunity comes, you're ready to take the bull by the horns.
You're listening to Inside Acting, a podcast dedicated to demystifying the inner and outer game of success in the entertainment industry. I'm Trev and AJ.
And I'm AJ Meyer, and in episode 275, we have the second and final part of my chat with SAG-AFTRA President and working actress Gabrielle Carteris. In part 2, we talk about the nomadic life of the artist, the challenges facing non-union actors in smaller markets, what it means and what it takes to flip a project, and Gabrielle's inspirational answers to our final 2 questions. Episode 275 of Inside Acting coming at you. Stay with us.
Support for this episode of Inside Acting is brought to you in part by Rehearsal Pro, the next version of Rehearsal, the essential app for actors. It's now available. We got to change this copy because it's the new version, the current version of Rehearsal. And it's now available in the iTunes App Store for your iOS device, your iPad or your iPhone or your iPod Touch. If you want to learn your lines, be off book for your auditions consistently, reliably, easily, and explore your character, make stronger choices, and do a lot of cool other stuff that we keep talking about that is going to go public very soon. Go to rehearsal.pro/IAP right now and learn all about all these kick-ass new features in this newest version of Rehearsal, the groundbreaking app designed by actors, specifically for actors, stage, film, television, you name it. Voiceover even as well. That's rehearsal.pro/IAP. This episode of Inside Acting is also brought to you in part by printheadshots.com, superior headshot printing. At printheadshots.com, all orders include free shipping, free retouching, free layouts, free proofs, and no hidden fees. That means you don't pay a dime until you approve your proofs. And now you can use promo code IA, that's IA, as in Inside Acting, to get $10 off your order. Most orders arrive within just a day or two, so for superior printed headshots with unparalleled turnaround time, visit printheadshots.com and remember to use promo code IA for $10 off.
Hey everyone, hey Trevor. Got some exciting stuff to talk about in this episode, huh?
Yeah, man, I'm stoked. So we just jump right into this really cool announcement that's like brand new on our plates. This is really cool.
I've been wanting to talk about this for a while. So big IAP event announcement. So for those of you who have listened to the podcast for a long time, and I know there are many of you, you may or may not remember Trevor and I being involved with the Los Angeles Theater Ensemble and our productions of The War Cycle. I know that there are other people, and some of those people who have been listening for a long time actually got a chance to see it. But for other people who, say, discovered the podcast later on, the ensemble wasn't quite as active, they've gone back and they've listened to previous episodes. And I've talked to very specific people that are in this boat. They've gone back and listened to past episodes and then been like, I'll meet them at like a tweet up or some kind of, industry event, and then be like, man, I really wish I would have been listening to the podcast back when you were doing the War Cycle so I could have come and seen it. Well, we have something that's almost as good, which is that Trevor and I are actually going to be involved in a reading of the 3rd War Cycle play, which is called Gospel According to First Squad. And we're so excited because this was one of my favorite things that I've ever done. I know Trevor feels the same, and we were in it together and we had some amazing scenes together, so we're going to be able to do those again.
I have goosebumps hearing you talk about it, man. I am really, really excited for this. This is definitely the coolest and most fun and I would say, best play I've ever had the pleasure of working on. And the fact that we get to do a reading of it at the Kirk Douglas Theatre in just a few weeks is really, really exciting. So here are the specifics. It's a reading of Gospel According to First Squad, as AJ just mentioned. This play won a bunch of awards. It was nominated for even more, and it won a couple. And a lot of the original actors that were in the original cast, including myself and AJ, are going to be in this reading as well. It's at the Kirk Douglas Theatre coming up on Saturday, May 27th, and it's at, I want to say 7 p.m. or 6:30 p.m.
Doors at 6, and we start at 6:30.
We start at 6:30.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is going to be an intimate reading in the rehearsal room upstairs at the Kirk Douglas Theatre. It's going to be recorded, so there's going to be some microphones and stuff. It's just going to be audio recording, and if you can't make it, we are going to be posting a recording of the entire reading inside the membership for our members, just as kind of a cool little bonus thing. I'm really excited just to have an archived version of this somewhere. Most importantly, you guys are invited. So it's $7 per ticket. But if you are a member of the podcast, guess what? You get free tickets. There's a thread inside the membership called First Squad Reading that you can go to for instructions on how to get your free tickets. We are doing an RSVP system and all that kind of thing because space is very, very limited. So we want to make sure that, we get a hard commitment from people. But if you're listening to this and you are a member of Inside Acting, again, you get free tickets. Just hit up the membership, look for the First Squad Reading thread, and that'll have all the instructions on how to reserve your seat. There's also going to be a light reception afterwards, possibly with some drinks and food and mingling and things like that. So we are really, really, really excited about this. Again, First Squad Reading at the Kirk Douglas Theatre coming up on Saturday, May 27th. Doors at 6 p.m. Reading starts at 6:30. Really hope to see a lot of you guys there. This might be the last acting that I do for a while, to be completely honest. So it's really special to me too, and I would love and be very honored if some of our members and listeners made it out. Awesome. And I just want to point out too, what a no-brainer this is. It's $7 to become a member for a month. So if you have been even considering it and you want to come see this and you're not a member yet, you it's like I said, it's a no-brainer because you get a free ticket if you're a member, and it's $7 for a ticket. So you do the math. Awesome, man. So yeah, that's the big news, man. And I'm just so freaking excited. Other than that, I don't think we have any other big announcements, except for some good news from you, AJ. I don't know if this is good news. It's just an interesting thing to note. We talked during the Chelsea Crisp episodes about getting specific and starting to mold one's choices and career paths to lead us to what we want. And I find that I am passing on a couple of projects recently, and I was trying to figure out the language to use when responding to my reps, because I know that, they work hard and they pitch us, and sometimes it's tough to hear, like, if they worked really hard to get me in a particular room and then I go, I'll pass. That's a little bit of a dance that we get to do as actors in regards to our relationship with our reps. So most recently they sent me an audition for, there's this musical, I'm not gonna say what place it is, but there's a musical theater here in Los Angeles that has some decent prestige. Like, a lot of people know it and have worked there and whatnot. I looked at it and I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. And I sort of floundered a bit before responding. And when I finally did respond, I said, you know what? I'm going to pass this. And I think the exact words I used were, this is not going to get me where I want to go. This is not going to get me where I want to be. You said that directly to your representation? Yeah. And it felt, I felt it was very empowering. It was like, oh, this is sort of in line with the whole thing that we talked about in regards to specificity and vision.
on the Chelsea Crisp episodes, I feel like I'm taking baby steps as opposed to big giant steps toward this, but this is one of them in my sort of estimation.
That's really cool. I always wondered what it would be like to get to that point in my career where I'm like, it's not like I'm above that. It's not like I'm above taking those roles, but it's just no longer part of the path that is becoming increasingly clear. And so it sounds like that's probably an empowering conversation for your representation as well, to sort of be on the same page and say like, okay, cool. If this guy knows where he's going, then I can sell him a little bit more effectively.
Yeah, maybe. And the thing is like, it's not, I don't think that we need to get to any particular place in our career in order for us to pass, for instance. Like, I don't think you have to reach a certain level before you can start passing on projects. I think it's more about like being very narrowly focused and going in a particular direction. So, if you look at what the project is and you think that, in your sort of best estimation and in your conversation with your representation, this is going to be a step toward the thing that I actually want, then passing on it would make you seem more like the diva thing that you're sort of concerned about, Trev. But if you look at it and it's not a next step on the path to what you want, then passing on it is just about specificity.
That's a key distinction to make. Some of the predominant advice I think that comes out of the world of art making is do everything, say yes to everything. And I think that's a great strategy if you are looking for experience and you are honing in on who you are as an artist and what you bring to the table. But once you start to get a handle on those things, on who you are and your specificity and what you bring and what you want to do and what brings you joy and what doesn't, then I think that's when you get to the point where it's like that advice of just do everything becomes disempowering, and you can really start to strategically approach your career almost as more of a business or a long-term goal rather than just this fun thing that we do. So it's a shift that I think we all come to at some point. And
yeah, well, I mean, and there's a sort of another way to look at it too, which Gabrielle talks about in this particular interview, where she actually kind of says say yes to everything, and it's not really the difference there. The difference there is she's being paid. Like, right. She's talking about saying yes to like every union project because she's like, I'm an actor and I want to work and I want to explore and I want to make my health, I want to make sure that I'm getting health benefits.
Yeah.
And that requires making a certain amount of money per year, so there's there is a way of saying yes to everything, but it's tough because then we get into the money conversation. I'm like, well, money talks.
Yeah.
And I think for me, being that I'm now with my new promotion, making a certain amount of money that is going to like support me in supporting myself. I was like mad at myself for using the same word the same word twice in the same sentence, but whatever. Supporting myself, since I have that, knowledge, it makes it easier to pass on the stuff that's like, I'm not going to get paid in other words, I'll, even if it's not 99 seat theater, even if it's higher paid theater, I'll actually make more at my day job than I will doing this project. And that project's not going to move me closer to what I want. I mean, that's it becomes sort of a no brainer. You know what I mean?
It's a good way to sort of reframe the very wise advice that either it's a hell yes or a hell no. When you're faced with an opportunity or a choice in your life, it's like either you are all in for it, you're like, yes, that's absolutely something I want to do. And if you're not all the way there with that, then it's like, no.
You should at least be taking a look at, yeah, exactly. You should at least be taking why am I not super excited about this?
Yeah. And you have options, which is the best part. And thank you for clarifying that about what Gabrielle says in the interview, because I was trying to kind of go there, and I didn't quite put it as succinctly as you did.
Support for this episode of Inside Acting is also brought to you in part by VO2GoGo.com, the award-winning voiceover training system and winner of Backstage's Reader's Choice Award for Best VO Training 4 years in a row. Visit VO2GoGo.com/start for a free Getting Started in VoiceOver online class that'll help you add voiceover to your acting portfolio. That's VO, as in voiceover, the number 2, gogo.com/start. And by Bluehost, the web's #1 complete web hosting solution, starting at just $3.95 per month. Bluehost proudly powers over 2 million websites worldwide, including a little podcast called Inside Acting you may have heard of. And it offers free site builders, one-click WordPress installation, 24/7 support, automatic site backups, industry-leading security, and a money-back guarantee. If you've been looking to set up a website of your very own, Bluehost is the way to go. Visit insideacting.net/blue to sign up today and even get a free domain. That's insideacting.net/blue.
And just to clarify, that's $3.95 a month, not $395 per month. Yeah, and they've got a lot of plans, a lot of different plans. And when I was looking to set up, the website, we originally had our website hosted on Blogger when I had no idea how to do any of that stuff. When we started working with Gadali and I started looking at, websites for my acting site and all sorts of other stuff, everywhere I looked, everyone was like Bluehost. Bluehost is the most reliable, the most features, and they've powered InsideActing.net now for several years, and they do have like an ungodly amount of features that I couldn't tell you the first thing about, but I do know that they're reliable and their support is awesome and they're affordable, and can't recommend them enough. InsideActing.net/blue. So that's it for the first part of this episode. Shall we jump into part 2 with Gabrielle?
Yeah, just a reminder that if you've sent in a listener question, we're going to be having a specific listener question episode coming up very soon. There's some juicy ones here we're excited to dive into. I don't really have much to say about Gabrielle's second part here. It kind of speaks for itself.
All right. Enjoy part 2 of AJ's chat with SAG-AFTRA President and actress Gabrielle Carteris. We'll catch you guys on the other side.
did a feature film 4 years ago now when the tax incentives were not really coming back, and it shot mostly here in LA. And I was in a van, one of the transpo vans, with one of the wardrobe people, I think, and we were driving from set to base, and she had been given her paycheck in her envelope, and she opened her envelope and she pulled it out. She heavy sigh, put it back in the envelope and said, "The things you'll do to stay in town." And I remember thinking that, like, it's not just her. I mean, obviously that's a different union, but it's not just her, right? It's everyone has to make these choices about where they're going to settle, if they're going to settle, if they're going to try. I just had a good friend of mine took my headshots because he was moving like the next day after he took my headshots to Atlanta to try out that market, you know. So I'm wondering if you see the growth of these other markets as a good thing, or if you think that it's taking, you know, work out of, you know, areas like LA. I mean, obviously it's a good thing in that there's more work and there's always, you know, it seems like we talked about this earlier with the different streaming services and the different networks. It seems like the work in general is growing, but also there's a lot of people that feel like, well, now should I even be staying here in LA? Should I be staying in New York? Should I be going somewhere else? You know, there's sort of this sense of the sort of nomadic sense to what actors sometimes do seems to be creeping back in.
Right. I think we were always nomadic, right? Theater, you would say, if you know, when I lived in New York, I was doing regional traveling all over the country.
Right, or tours or whatever.
It was, and that's the nature of theater. And I think the nature of TV, well, film has always been, you know, the travel kind of thing. But what I like personally, I like to stay home. I have kids. I want to be with my husband, and I don't want to, you know, there's certain things I won't do now that I might have done when I was younger because I'm not going to leave home. but that, I'll tell you, as a national officer, as the president of this union, and when I look at members across the country, I think it's good. I think there's good and bad, right? I mean, there's the hard part. You don't want to, and I get that. People don't want to necessarily move. Some people want to move. They look at it as an opportunity to start their lives over, and other people say they don't want it. I can't, and I don't think the union wants to go and do it according just to people's personal lives in that moment, necessarily what's going on. If you look at the big picture of it, I think it's great. I think that, it just means that people, actors can live in different places, and they might not want to live in LA and New York. They want to raise their kids in Seattle. They want to raise their kids in Chicago, or they want to raise their kids in wherever it is. Now they have more flexibility. I mean, that's kind of exciting, right? That I want to raise my kids in Idaho, and I want to be able to do my podcast. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to create this podcast, and I'm able to do it. I don't have to go to New York or LA, or I'm going to start a radio. I'm going to shoot this film. I have my whatever the camera is, because I'm not a technical. I have no technology know-how. But how exciting is that you could so. Pluses and negatives, depending on which, is the glass half full or half empty. But I love the idea of access. I just think that's kind of wild.
What advice we've gotten, since we're on the subject, we've gotten this question into the podcast a few times. What advice would you have for the person who's in Portland, in Idaho, in New Orleans, in even San Francisco? I've heard it from the Bay Area of California, San Francisco.
I'm from there.
People, okay. So these actors that are in these markets, and they look around and they're trying to make a living, and they want to work as an actor, and so much of the stuff is non-union. So much of it. And they're like, I want to work as a union actor, I want to become a union actor, but I'm not finding a ton of opportunities to do so, and B, I'm a little nervous or scared or worried about doing that and then not being able to work all these other jobs when I want to make a living. That obviously that's going to happen in even LA and New York.
I was going to say that's so not.
It's not necessarily
it's not just
isolated to those places, but
it's more predominant.
Yeah, and I think the reason I'm asking for them is because a lot of these are the same people who are like, well, since I can't do that now, I'll just work at the bank. I'll be a teller at the bank and save up money so that I can move to LA or New York and hopefully have a little bit of a better shot at becoming a member and working as a union actor. Like, what advice would you have for those people? I think I'm asking because we've gotten the question in so many. Well, it kind of
speaks to your last question. So it's many. This is multi-level, but
in
your last question, I would say one of the greatest aspects of our industry right now, the idea that we are in so many different states now, and that is allowing people actually to have more of a career, right?
Yeah.
Like Atlanta, if you were to say 10 years ago what was going on, that was one of those exact situations where you're saying, what do I do? It's, there's such little work, and now it's the third really flourishing local that we have. So I think that that speaks to exactly that concern. I would also say that, look, if you're a union member, I've flipped jobs. That's why I say I know what goes on. In LA, I've been approached to do non-union work, and
not while you were president. I mean, that would be.
Oh no, even when I was president.
That's
wild,
ridiculous.
Right?
That's insane.
Honest to
Who
God.
are these people?
I know, not paying attention. But but they'll say so. So I literally have had the ability to flip a job. I'll say, in this, and I'll connect them in the union. Look at the contracts; they're not as hard as you think. And there's whatever it is, particularly with new media. And there are times.
So by flip it, you're saying like you fight for it to go from non-union to union.
Yeah, I'll say, you know what? It's not hard, and maybe I can help walk you through it. Seriously, I really tried
amazing.
it.
Yeah.
And then, and there are other times I've had to say no. I will say the instinct, if you look, the best thing also about the idea that production is everywhere, the idea that you can create your own production, not hard to be able to do it union. And I think that we want to philosophically always stay in that kind of place that we're saying we support, because that's what union is. We never do it alone, right? We stand on the shoulders of others, so that, if we can say, We want it to be union. We want to keep things union so that we know people will have protection. So like when something like happened to me, when I became partially paralyzed, I had the insurance to cover that, to take care of me because I was a part of a union. If it had been a non-union job, I would have had no protection, no recourse, nothing. I think that what I would say to people is make their stuff, like I said, make it union, flip stuff, and, know that for the people, the hardest part for us is when people try to play it both ways. On union, I'll do a union job, I'll do a non-union job because and I say that is the worst. That one of the reasons that's the worst is because we work so hard to get certain things into our contracts for members, right? For the things that protect us. The things, the basic, an 8-hour day, and then, what goes into overtime, but also safety and security for stunt people, all those things that every time somebody works off the card, right? Because they just, and if it's a couple $100, even if it's $1,000, that will not change their lives in the big picture, but going and compromising a contract, because every time you do that, you let the employer know, well, maybe I can push the envelope. And so I won't have to give in the next negotiation as much, or I don't have to worry about what I do in the negotiation because the performer is always going to give in and say, I don't need that much. And I think what I know that does is it not only hurts you, but it hurts everybody in all the years that we have taken to build these contracts.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you, when I look back on all the non-union, I've figured out it's almost over $500,000 that I've turned down cumulatively of non-union work, which is a lot of money, particularly through all the years that I wasn't able to work because I was injured and I have 2 kids. So I've already established a lifestyle with my husband and my children, and it meant giving up a lot of things. But I really, in my heart of hearts, believe that all those little moments would never have defined my life, even though in that moment when I really want the money, I'm like, oh, I really want that money, could help for this or that. It doesn't change my life, really. It only supports me in that moment. But when I hold off and I make sure to keep strong, I'm actually helping for tomorrow and the years that follow, not just for myself, but for everybody else. And that is it's a humbling thing to be able to sit and do that. And that's what I would urge people in the smaller markets. Fight that good fight, create your projects, make sure they're union, try to flip them, do whatever you can. We have so many waivers in smaller locals to help them with their local commercials. Local commercial waivers. We have, depending on what the contract is, we have ultra low, but we have so many ways to help people that I think that they just really need to try to access those things.
Yeah. I have to say that the idea of flipping a contract is something that I find very empowering, and I don't think we've ever given anybody that advice.
It's great
when that question comes in, so I really appreciate that. It makes getting involved and knowing what the union's up to and what the contracts are even more important for those people in those markets to say, okay, I know what their budget is, I know like what we're doing here. I can maybe help them by gathering up the paperwork and saying like, do this, and yes, I'll absolutely say yes to your project, to your role. We have 2 questions that we always ask at the end of every interview, so I just want to, because I know we're out of time.
Can I just say one thing to that though, because I want to help. So I also want to say, so these are ways, yes, to know your contracts. Also, if you're in a local that has, if you're in one of our locals, reach out to your local executive director or to the staff that's been assigned, or reach out to the national offices trying to find out a person immediately who can help you so that you can do that. You don't have to feel like you have to know all the answers.
Right.
What you do is you come with the questions and the information, and they'll help you. So,
that's great. Okay. That's great. Thank you for that. I know we didn't have a ton of time. I really wish we could have spoken more about your career as an actor, because a lot of these, the answers to our final 2 questions usually come from that place. Okay. But if you want to answer them from the place of governance, that would be amazing too.
I could do it as an actor.
So the first one is, do you feel like this career path chose you or you chose it?
Wow. Part of it I chose. I believe that. And I don't know that it chooses me. I think, so I saw this great thing in the New Yorker. I don't know if this helps. This was many years ago. This was over 3 years ago. And it was a picture of all these doors. And there was 2 rows of them. Like there was a bottom, downstairs and upstairs. And they were just doors lined up beneath and above. And on one of the doors, there was a note nailed on it. It said, "Opportunity knocked, but you weren't there to answer." And so what I think, and that was really profound for me. I still think of that picture. And I think that my career has been about preparation. I can't say that. I mean, there's certain things I imagined and I desired, and I definitely think I helped to facilitate it. Part of it's luck, and part of luck is being prepared so that when luck does come or opportunity comes, you're ready to take the bull by the horns. I just, I think it's such a combination of so many things.
I love that. Now that image, without even having seen that image, is going to be kind of burned into my memory. The second question is, if you, with all of the things that you've experienced, all the different areas of the industry that you've been involved with, and now governance, if you could take all of your experiences and boil them down to one nugget of advice for what do you tell me to call them? Not non-union members, but
pre-union.
Pre-union. Someone who's pre-union, someone who's union, someone who's out there fighting the good fight, someone who's just getting started, someone who's maybe on their career path, but not sure, like looking for inspiration. Like, what is your nugget of advice that you tell other actors when asked?
I haven't been asked that specifically, but I say live in the world of yes. So when I got out of college, I remember I went to Sarah Lawrence College, and when I got out, I was offered a soap opera. I said yes. I was offered a commercial. I said yes. I was auditioning. I did theater. I said yes. I said yes. I said yes. And it was 5 years later, I think, when I started really, started to work, and I went back to a college reunion. And there was the guy who had been like the theater guy at Sarah Lawrence, and he said, "Oh man, I saw you on this thing, and man, I wish I didn't say no because now I can't get an agent and I can't." And it was all hard. But he was seeing it that way, and I thought he was living. I remember when we were in college, and he said, "I will only do this." That's what he said. I am a film actor, and this is all I will do. And I thought, okay, whatever. But I was in survival mode, and I love to work, and the idea of being creative. I say, if you live in the world of yes, nothing is too small. I really feel that way. Nothing is too small. I've done things that look like people say, "Don't do it, Gabrielle," and then it turned out to be really quite profound. Other things that everybody thought was so big meant nothing, so your heart has to be there. You have to, somewhere it has to connect either in your pocket, financially, or it's got to be something emotionally that drives you. There has to be a reason for you to do it. Otherwise, it's empty. But live in the world of yes, and just, it's okay to be afraid. It's okay.
I love that. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. We usually ask at this point if people want to find out more about you, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there, and I know you were saying like you're not big on technology.
No, but you can go. I do share stuff. Like I was at the opening of Genius last night. Was the premiere of Genius, which is the new National Geographic series. Everybody should see it about Einstein.
Yeah,
great. So I social media. I did some. I did some live Facebooking.
Oh, look at that. Okay, cool.
But I am working on it.
That's kind of my question. Is like if people want to find just
look for me.
You,
I'm out there.
All right.
Yeah.
All right,
please follow me, and and I'd love to see what you're doing, and maybe we'll meet and hang out. Hopefully we're doing a job on a set together.
There it is.
There
I love
you go.
That.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm always open for it.
Thank you, Gabrielle. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
A shorter part 2. It was only 16, 17 minutes, but some good stuff in there. And you know what I liked? My favorite part of this entire interview was when she kind of stopped you and said, "I wouldn't call them minor markets."
That was your favorite part when I got corrected?
Well, you weren't corrected. I don't see it as you being corrected. I see it more as like
I'm joking.
This is the changed landscape,
Yeah, definitely. I love learning stuff like that, actually, and I didn't mean for it to sound pejorative. I just didn't know what else to call these other markets, and so I don't know, maybe we can put our heads together, either you and I or you and I and our listeners, and come up with something that is, supportive and empowering language, but also makes the distinction between, the two Super Bowls of LA and New York and the these other markets where there's tons of work right now, tons. I'm helping Ben Whitehair put himself on tape for something in Portland like once, twice a week these days. I mean, that is a furious clip, to be moving along at. So anyway, do you have any ideas, Trev? Like what else we might be able to?
I'm thinking regional markets.
Ooh, there we go. Regional.
Yeah.
Yes. New York and LA are not regions.
Yes. I mean, Vancouver's a hot spot. Atlanta's a hot spot. I think, New Mexico, the sort of Southwest, a lot of stuff in Texas. Portland, obviously, is, I mean, it's shooting everywhere now. I just think it's so cool. The story that you have to move to the Super Bowl of the entertainment industry somewhere like LA or New York is obviously it gives you an advantage in terms of the amount of work you can take, but it's not necessary anymore, especially if you cultivate a skill set of self-producing, of making your own work. I think that more and more we're going to see this sort of widening of job opportunities. And I think it'll be in 10, 15 years, it'll be like, it won't matter where you live. You can live anywhere. And, with the right sort of skill set and internet savviness and marketing savviness, you can make a living acting or storytelling professionally on the internet. Or it's just so cool, man. Like, I just love that the man doesn't control everything all the time now.
Yes.
And it's only going to get more and more empowering for artists. And the resources are out there. The training is out there.
All right, man. What's your pick of the week?
So my pick of the week, anybody who follows me on social media saw this. I also talked about it in my most recent newsletter. But the book Sleep Smarter by Sean Stevenson. He has a podcast as well called The Model Health Show that I've only listened to here and there, but it's great. And what I liked about this book, I've just been interested in sleep with a lot of the sort of changes in my life recently. I had not been sleeping well. I was in sort of an unhappy place for a while, and not getting sleep like just compounds everything in your life. Sleep just compounds everything no matter whether you're getting it or not in every direction. And so I wanted to learn more about sleep. So I went to the library and I got these two books after doing some research about, ideal books that you could read about sleep. And Sleep Smarter was one of the ones that had just so much actionable advice. And what I really loved about it was that it's centered around how to get the best sleep possible. But so much of that has nothing to do with the actual sleep part. So much of that has to do with everything else you do in your day. And so a lot of really good and frankly unexpected information in this book just about things you can do. In fact, the last chapter 21 or Principle 21 or Strategy 21 is about this thing called earthing, which is a thing where you basically make a point to connect your body to Mother Nature physically, and the most common way to do it is to just take off your socks and your shoes and go walk around in the grass or walk on the beach and things like that. And the science behind it is that we are all electromagnetic beings with electromagnetic fields, and the planet Earth has a very specific electromagnetic resonance, and that we so frequently separate ourselves from that, walking on concrete and wearing shoes and being indoors. And so when you get out and you actually connect skin to soil, skin to sand, skin to ocean water or lake water or grass, it immediately changes your physiology. And there's a lot of science in this book to back up sort of new agey out there claims like that throughout this book. Everything from like what plants to have in your bedroom to the photoreceptors on your skin, and so how important it is to have your bedroom very dark. And the whole book, I was like, no, really? No shit. There's a study for that? That's crazy. And it was written in a fun way, and it's well researched, and he's very careful not to demonize technology or people with specific situations. He just, he constantly says, look, do the best you can. I know this is sort of what we know right now. There's still a lot we don't know, but but experiment and try these things and see what happens. And I have been putting some of these principles into play in my life and been sleeping much better, to be honest, and going to bed much earlier and easily falling asleep much earlier, which has been huge because I used to lay in bed and just stare at the ceiling for hours. And then I'd wake up the next day feeling exhausted. And now I'm going to bed much earlier, falling asleep right away, waking up rested and energized in the morning, and having dreams again and remembering my dreams and feeling in a much better mood throughout the day. And it's an awesome book, man. Definitely one of the best books I've read this year. Highly recommend it. Sleep Smarter by Sean Stevenson. Link on our website. So tell me about your pick of the week, because I actually was researching this the other night and was really intrigued by it.
I finally got a chance to see the current show that's on at the Kirk Douglas Theatre. And because the Kirk Douglas and Center Theatre Group are featuring smaller theater houses in Los Angeles right now, there's 3 plays from different theater companies in LA that are only going to get 2 weeks of a run each. But the source material that was used to develop the play, and actually I think most of the lines, if not all the lines of the play, are directly out of the source material, is actually a book of poetry by a woman named Claudia Rankin, and it is called Citizen, an American Lyric. And it is all about race relations, micro and in some cases macro aggressions in America. They first produced this show in 2015, and I think it was the Fountain Theater who produced it. The Fountain's sort of response to unarmed Black, especially men, who are being killed by law enforcement over the last, however many years it's been as publicized as it has been. So this book, book of poetry, is all about these race relations, and it's just fascinating. Like they theatricalized it, but I would encourage anyone to check out the book, especially if you're into poetry or into politics or just want to understand more. For instance, if I had to say that there was my biggest sort of takeaway from listening to the words of this poetry, I understood that there must be an emotional and mental toll that walking through life as a person of color or some kind of marginalized group, there must be a mental and emotional toll that takes place where it's exhausting, dealing with this on a daily basis. But they talk about, or she talks about in the book, the physiological toll that it takes. And I'd never really thought of it like that. I'd never really taken into consideration how that exhaustion affects one's physiological being, that you just feel sort of beaten up from trying to fight these battles on a daily basis. So just to create that sense of empathy and oneness with your fellow human, it makes this sort of a must read. I think that's the reason why I wanted to make it my pick of the week.
Yeah, I listened to some of the audience cast creative team conversation after the performance the other night, and I was really I didn't know much about the show, to be honest, so I was really moved, and I started looking into some of Claudia's work, and it turns out this book of poetry, Citizen, is actually a National Book Award finalist. So it's a big deal, and it was also selected as one of, I think, 20 or so books that are being I don't know how actively proposed these are being, but they're recommended reading for presidents, like Donald Trump presidents.
Hello, Mr. President. Congratulations. Here's your recommended reading list.
Yeah. I think it's great. Barack Obama was such an avid reader, and I don't know if President Trump is a reader, but it would be kind of cool to...
Not based on his language. His third grade level language. I somehow doubt it.
Yeah. Agreed. All right, well, that's Citizen. And then we have a listener pick from Jasmine Bristow. and she sends in the podcast Invisibilia. It's about the invisible forces that shape our lives. So a lot of interesting sociological and psychological factors at play in our life that we normally don't even think about or acknowledge. We just sort of take them all for granted, and yet they are so instrumental in shaping how we respond to and see the world. So I really enjoy the podcast as well. Jasmine has been loving it. They release all of their episodes in seasonal chunks. So I think they do typically one a week for maybe 8 or 10 episodes, and then they take a break and produce all the others and then come back and then release much like a TV show. The link to that is on our website. It's a production of NPR, and if you have the NPR One app, it's one of the featured podcasts in that app. So check it out, Invisibilia. So that is Citizen, an American Lyric by Claudia Rankin, Sleep Smarter by Sean Stevenson, and Invisibilia, a great podcast from NPR. All right, today's episode of Inside Acting was produced and co-hosted by me, Trevor Algatt, and you, AJ Meyer. Jen Levin is our production coordinator. Gadela Gubrek is our marketing and web director. Deborah Smith is our community manager. Grace Gordon is our director of public relations, and Fern Lim designed our logo. Trevor Algatt edited and mixed today's episode and composed our theme and interview music.
You can sign up for our weekly email dispatch and listen to all of our episodes at our website, insideacting.net. You can also find us on social media and wherever you get your podcasts. If you got a minute, please leave us a review on iTunes, because that specifically really helps us out a lot.
Huge thanks to our sponsors, Rehearsal Pro, VOtogogo.com, PrintHeadshots.com, and Bluehost. And a big thanks to you guys, our listeners. Be sure to visit our website and subscribe to our weekly newsletter. Get links to everything we talked about in this episode. And if you like, you can also directly support the continued production of this show with either a one-time financial contribution or an ongoing contribution as part of our membership. All the information and ways to do that are at our website, insideacting.net. So head over there to learn more and to show us a little bit of love.
And remember that you know another way to contribute on the financial side of things is to check out our sponsors, because it every time that they are successful in partnership with us, it makes them want to come back, and it makes others want to join in.
Yeah, and just a quick note on that: we never, ever accept a sponsorship from a company that we don't agree with or wouldn't wholeheartedly recommend. So
that is it for episode 275 of Inside Acting. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week, and in the meantime, live in the world of yes.